Now is Jacob Rees-Mogg, Conservative MP for North East Somerset. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, good afternoon.
You described John Major's speech earlier this week as full of inaccuracies and humbug. How would you characterise Theresa May's today?
Oh, it's in a different league. It's a statesmanlike speech that sets out very clearly the position of the country, is a robust response to the EU's document a few days ago, and sets out a basis for a deal that will see compromises being made, but that is something everybody accepts.
Where are you able to compromise?
Well, the Prime Minister has been very clear that we are leaving the jurisdiction of the European Court of Justice, that we will be free to trade and make trade deals with the rest of the world, and that we will be out of the customs union and the single market. Those are the points that, for me, were very important. On the other hand, she said that she will seek to be in an association or associate member of some EU regulatory bodies, which is something I would not perhaps have chosen to do, but is a compromise that I can accept, and I can see the logic for what she's saying.
Even if there were some binding commitments in that mix?
Well, the point she made was that there wouldn't be binding commitments. There would be an arbitration mechanism and an independent body that would determine whether any undertakings had been breached. But this would allow future UK governments to make different decisions. And that's very important, because then these decisions become a matter of ordinary political controversy and subject to democratic control, which is where they should always have been.
And if we end up in a customs arrangement, her words in that speech, if we end up in a customs arrangement with the European Union that comes with strings attached, what strings could you bear?
Well, a customs arrangement is completely standard between neighbouring countries. This is not an unusual aspect. A customs union is different. The danger of the customs union is the common external tariff, which makes prices in the UK higher. And that's what we must avoid. Having facilitation agreements with your neighbours is an intelligent thing to do, and is something that's completely routine under World Trade Organization rules.
But you talked about the mirroring the EU. Mirror means exact copy, doesn't it?
It doesn't strictly, does it? Because it reverses things. But sorry to be boringly pedantic.
No, I thought it as I said it, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
Let's not get all Marx Brothers about this.
I think there's a very important point that she made, which is that there are regulations, particularly in the car industry, that are actually made at an international level and accepted by most car producers across the world. These aren't European regulations. They are our law through the European Union. They're set at a higher level by a United Nations body. And it's obvious that we're going to continue to follow those. As she pointed out, Russia and South Korea follow those as well. And that makes you able to sell into global markets. That's not something that I think is objectionable, that there should be a global car market. I think that's quite sensible.
When Theresa May says a customs union simply wouldn't be compatible with the trade freedoms that Brexit gives us, and what people in many cases voted for when they voted to leave the European Union, is that basically just a kind of politer way of saying, we are staying out of the union completely, out of the single market completely, and this third way I'm describing, Theresa May describing, is all we can offer?
Well, it's a very good third way. It's a much better third way than being in the single market and the customs union. And this was absolutely clear during the referendum debate. It's very interesting. I've been reading Tim Shipman's book on the debate, and he points out that the Remain side thought that saying we were leaving the single market was going to be their killer blow to win the vote. And it wasn't. People were quite happy to vote to leave the single market, and the customs union is the concomitant of that. Being outside those two leaves us free to deal with the rest of the world and free to take charge of our own affairs. And both of those are very important.
Why isn't this speech cherry-picking? Why isn't what she's describing cherry-picking?
Well, I thought that was one of the strongest parts of her speech, when she pointed out that every trade deal is cherry-picking. That the EU has never wanted to do a deal, for example, on content of films, media content, and it wouldn't do that with the United States, and say that wasn't in the deal. That was a cherry that was discarded. The US didn't want to do one on financial services. Likewise, that every single trade deal is about putting in the bits you feel that you can agree on and excluding the ones that you feel you can't agree on. And so this cherry-picking argument from the European Union, I think, is a negotiating stance.
So, no cherry-picking, you're either in or you're out. That's kind of the hard line from Europe. And, of course, their soft line is, we'd like you to stay. If we're out of the single market and out of the customs union is the government's hard line, what's the soft line? Is that what we've just heard today, the softer Brexit, that's still a hard Brexit?
Well, there may be some in the European Commission who think that we're not really intending to leave, and I hope that they have been disabused of that by this speech and other speeches. The soft line is that we're going to give you £35 billion, and if we don't have a deal, you don't have any money and you're bust, so what are you going to do about it?
Well, that doesn't sound very soft, but anyway.
No, that's right. They need the money. The soft line is that we're offering them this huge amount of money, and in return we want a trade deal. If we don't get a trade deal, they don't get any money. Bear in mind, the European Union has no legal ability to borrow. So for the final 21 months of the multi-annual financial framework from when we leave next March, it would either have to cut expenditure in Poland or get the Germans to pay more money. Neither of those were going to be very popular. They need our money. So offering them all that money is the soft approach, and saying, we will still carry on buying your goods after we've left. We will allow you to sell them into our country freely. That is a soft and generous approach. Hardline approach would be to say, we'll go to WTO terms, we won't give you any money, thank you and good night.
If I asked you, do you think Brexit is worth it? I think I'm right in saying you would give me a resounding yes.
Yes, I would indeed.
Theresa May was asked it by a German reporter, and her answer was, will we think again on Brexit? No.
No, well, that's a very clear point, that we're not going to think again.
But it's not an answer to the question, is it?
Well,
she can't say yes.
The Prime Minister answers questions in her own way. I answer questions in my way.
More truthfully, perhaps.
That's the way it is. No, not more truthfully. It's just a different approach. The Prime Minister is more cautious, and probably wisely so, than I am in offering hostages to fortune.
Thank you very much, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob Rees-Mogg. Bye-bye.